Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Brent Butt, standing by, brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Just before we get to Brent, Cam in Sydney, Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. Jim, I guess he was doing some research, Cam. Jim was about 29 years old and an active NHL player when Patrick Hernandez was at the top of the charts. He was for sure getting down at the disco, too.
Yeah, he would have been cutting rug with everyone else on the dance floor, no question.
I'll tell you one thing he wasn't doing, using the phrase cutting rug. What is it? Was it 1940?
No, cutting rug. Are you kidding me? In the 90s, we used to use that all the time.
I bet you did. Joining us now, Canadian actor, comedian, writer, creator, and star of Corner Gas on CTV from Saskatchewan, big Canuck fan, Brent Butt. What an honor. Thanks for doing this, Brent. How are you?
My pleasure. The honor is all mine. And I love to go to a place where the dance floor is carpeted. That's when you know you're really in for some fun dancing.
Yeah. Back in the 90s, every once in a while, you'd go to somebody's house or even the bathroom, and there'd be carpet
for sure,
in a kitchen or a bathroom. That wasn't a good idea.
No.
Yeah, the bathroom especially. There's all kinds of wrong going on there.
That's right. There's things going on the floor that you don't want to be absorbed. Hey, Brent, from Saskatchewan, how'd you become a Canucks fan?
Well, I've lived here since 93. I grew up in Saskatchewan to the extent that I grew up anywhere. I grew up in Saskatchewan. But when I started comedy, I moved to Toronto pretty early on. And I came here in 93 to do some shows. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to hang out here for a couple of months. I got some friends here. But I never spend any time in Vancouver. I fly in, it looks beautiful, play a club, and then I fly out. So I thought I'm going to spend a couple months here. And, I've been here 30 years now. But that year, 93, 94, was when the Canucks took the run deep, you know. So I came at the time, I got swept up in the fervor, and I never looked back.
Do you have, I would imagine that might be the answer, 93, 94, but a favorite Canucks era or a favorite Canucks player?
2010-11, that run is deep. I've got to know Kirk McLean, actually, so, he'll be sour as hell if I don't say he's my favorite player of all time, But it seems surreal. I was such a fan because I was a little goalie. I was a fat little goalie. I was, I knew pretty early on the NHL was not on my horizon. I knew I better get funny quick because you can't light it 9 goals a game and expect a lot of heat from the scouts. But I was a big fan of Kirk McLean. But that 2010-11 team, with the Sedins and Burrows and Luongo and who's about to go up in the Ring of Honor. I mean, it's hard to beat that batch.
Yeah, we'd just like to remind you, Brent, that Roberto is not actually going into the Ring of Honor. It will be his likeness, but we thought, maybe one day you'd actually get the person up there. Yeah.
I thought they physically pinned a person inside some manner of plexiglass.
Yeah.
He could dance like the old go-go dancers. This is nowhere near as entertaining as I thought it was going to be then.
No kidding. You'd see a lot of good concerts, but the downtime wouldn't be so great. Hey, what can you tell us about your book? It's called Huge. Christmas is Just Around the Corner.
Yeah, I always wanted to write a novel. I kind of spent 25 years writing nothing but scripts, so I didn't have really time to write a novel. And then when we got the lockdown, I thought, okay, now if I'm not now, I'll never do it. So I sat down, wrote a novel, and I'll be darned if it wasn't a great big hit. Became a bestseller and really nice reviews. And it's a real departure for me. It's not a comedy. It's about comedy, but it's a dark psychological thriller about 3 comedians on the road, 2 of whom do not have a disturbing capacity for violence.
Hey, I got to ask you, a lot of people still say late in their teens, we don't know what we want to do with our lives. You were 12 years old when you set a goal of becoming a comedian. Then you started at it at 18, 19. Talk a little bit about knowing early on what you want to do with your life.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it's a real blessing. Not like you said, not many people get that. And I didn't know whether I was going to be able to do something, but I knew what I wanted to do more than anything else. The first time I ever saw a stand-up comedian was on TV at the old Alan Hamill show.
Yes, yeah.
That came from Vancouver, actually. And I saw a guy named Kelly Monteith. That's the first time I'd ever seen stand-up. I'd seen comedy sketches and sitcoms and stuff like that, but just the guy standing there talking, being funny, and it captured me like nothing else. It's like the only thing that made sense to me. And I went out after the show and told my mom I wanted to be a comedian, and she said, "Go do it outside." That was when you're the seventh of 7 kids. That's the answer every day. All right, fine, do it outside.
I wanted to ask you about social media. You got the Twitter account, and anybody could go to YouTube, see your clips and all that. How has social media changed how you do your job?
I mean, me personally, not so much, because I'm kind of an older guard. I'm one of the old grizzled veterans, I'm dug in my ways. But it's certainly big for a lot of the young comics now. I've gotten to know some comics that I'm a fan of strictly through social media, because they're recording themselves every night, putting up quick clips on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But I've done very little of that. I'm not the most tech savvy individual you're ever going to come across. I can barely handle an automatic sliding door. I get rattled. It's haunted.
Yeah.
But it's become a game changer for a lot of young comics, and a lot of people are getting a fan base sort of before they're ready to. That's maybe one of the downsides. They get a video that has 8 million viewers.
Yeah, that's it.
And they got 2 minutes of material, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not ready for any success." But it'll all balance out.
Yeah,
I think this is the cliche. We do that a lot on this show, but the cliche question for any stand-up comedian: what's it like doing stand-up comedy these days? And I know we have a show coming up in West Van in February with PC culture, with woke culture, and just how careful you have to be, Brent, now, or maybe not, versus before.
Yeah, I'm sort of I subscribe to the notion that nothing has really changed. Like, my good friend Cliff Nesteroff, who is without a doubt the world's leading comedy historian. He's written 3-4 books. Steve Martin comes to him. Woody Allen comes to him. And he's originally a BC guy. He grew up in the woods of BC, and he became this showbiz scholar. He's just written his 3rd book. It's called Outrageous. And it's kind of funny because it knocks down all these notions that, like, we've never been allowed to say more than we can right now. That we're actually in the least restrictive time. Comedians used to get arrested for cursing on stage. So, the notion is if what you're doing is funny enough, don't worry about it. It's like Anthony Jeselnik said. He said, you got to get away with it, and if you're not getting away with it, you're not funny enough.
I remember my brother and I went and saw Jerry Seinfeld one night at Queen Elizabeth Theatre, and my brother's in the entertainment business, and he said, just look at this. This guy's got a microphone and a stool and a glass of water, and he's going to entertain us for 2 years. I think it's got to be the hardest job in all of entertainment. What's your best or worst, I don't know if this has happened to you, Brent, but bombing story?
Yes, I've heard other comedians talk about bombing, and I wonder what it'd be like. No, certainly, I've had my share of. In the early days, you'd have to perform in strip clubs where you are the exact opposite of what they're looking for. Everything that you have going on is the opposite of what they want. If you can win them over, you're doing okay. But yeah, I played biker bars, stood on pool tables telling jokes. I had a guy walk up on stage, pull a Bowie knife from his leg. He had a sheath on his leg. You know how you do.
Wow.
And he pointed it at me and dragged it across his throat. And I remember I said to him, really, you're going to kill me because you don't think I'm funny? That's not an overreaction? And then I was like, I shouldn't be wising off to this.
Yeah.
But anyway, we left through the kitchen. Everything was fine.
Comedic influences. Who'd you like?
There's probably a lot of guys you haven't heard of. Like when I first moved to Toronto, there were some fantastic guys who had been, headline comedians who'd been doing it a long time. I would sit in the back and watch them. Lawrence Morgenstern and the late great Eric Tunney. Larry Horowitz was a guy I learned a lot from, just about the craft of comedy. And then you got to find your own voice. But there's a lot of craft to it. I think a lot of people don't understand the level of craft. And it's one of the things that I talk about in my book, Huge. 2 of the comedians are really good at what they do. And I explain a little bit of the nuance, what goes on in crafting comedy. But it's, I always a big fan of keeping my eyes and ears open and my yap shut and just absorbing what I can. And I ask a lot of questions. Whatever I'm getting into, when I first got into TV production, back in the old UTV days.
Yes.
Working with a producer, Michael French, I asked him a million questions. Okay, he taught me how to produce TV and how to edit. And so, I'm just a big observer and ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, you've lived in Toronto as well, but after a month of bookings in Vancouver, you decided, you know what, this is the city. What was it about Vancouver that you said, you know what, I'm going to stay here?
Well, one of the things, like I said, it was February when I came.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I remember... I remember people talking about a cold snap, and I was like, really? I'm in a hoodie.
Yeah.
And but the thing that blew me away was we came home and the news came on and it said, -1 and had a graphic with icicles on it and everything. And I thought, man, if there's a place in Canada in February where the lead story is it's -1, that was the lead story of the news. I was like, unpack my satchel. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But then, I just fell in love with the city and made great friends here. And I really never wanted to be anywhere else. And like I said, I've been here 30 years now.
And before I let you go, Brent, can you put into words just how proud you are when you watch Corner Gas?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of pride it's such a team effort. That's what strikes me when I look at Corner Gas. I think about the 80 or so people that were behind the scenes all the time, and everybody was pulling in the same direction. And, the cast gets a lot of accolades and the writers get a lot of accolades, but it's such a team sport. And I'm a team sport guy. I love hockey, love football. And when I dropped into the world of TV and film and realized what a big, that's the thing I'm proudest of. We had a great team and we all pulled in the same direction.
Well, we can't thank you enough. By the way, I mentioned you've got a gig in West Van at the K-Meek Arts Center, February 3rd. The book is called Huge. Brent, we can't thank you enough for doing this. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. I've been a fan for a long time, Donnie, and I watch your guys' show like almost every day. Seriously, I'm not even tooting smoke here. I at least watch the YouTube clips if I can't get on it. So you guys are doing a great job. Thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate it, and I love the man cave, by the way. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks.